Hey,
Joe, how you doing, man?
I'm good. What's up? That tune that we start with, it might get the tune that's been in my head all week out of my brain for the first
Ooh.
time.
Could I take a stab
Yeah,
at
go.
what's in your head? Yeah. You're So Vain, Carly Simon.
No.
No, what's been in your head all week?
You got a fast car.
Oh, geez, it's everywhere, right?
Oh my gosh. I gotta take it to get us out of here. But I got the old one in my head.
Well, at least that's
Oh,
good. I mean, Tracy Chapman. I mean, how are you going to beat
yeah,
that? You know?
it's strange because well, I think it was last week. I don't know. I was on Twitter or something. I was looking at, or formerly Twitter,
It's
uh,
X, formerly Twitter.
X, uh, and and I caught a clip of like her at Wembley Stadium or something, and I listened to it, and I thought, yeah, that is a really well written song. That's one of the best written songs. It's just such a terrific story. It's incredibly sad story. It's just such a good song. And then
Yeah.
I said that to Chelsea, and Chelsea was like, "Oh, remember we heard that version this past year, and we thought, why would anybody remake this song? Why would anybody do it? Like, you can't do it. You can't capture like the Tracy Chapman voice.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so." And then I went to a hockey game with Aiden, 16 years old, and he's humming a song, and I realize it's Fast Car, and I start to sing it, and he's like, "How do you know that song?" And I'm like, "I'm first of all, he doesn't realize that it's an old song that's been redone, right? And
Right.
second of all, like I
We're
still
losing your
am
audio,
listening.
Joe.
Really? I still am
Yeah.
listening
Maybe it's
to.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still listening to new music. Like I can know
Maybe it's
new
on my end.
songs. So I don't know. But then we listened to it. I said, I love that song. It's it's like sad. And he's like, wait, it's sad? What are you talking about? I'm like, do you ever listen to the lyrics of a song, or you just listen to the beats?
Bebopping through life, man.
And so we listened to it, and actually we learned it together on the guitar this past week. So it actually turned into something really nice.
Oh, cool. Nice, man. Well, I think it is a good song, and I will say I like it way better than that "Give Me One Reason to Stay," the other hit that she had.
Yeah.
She's a great songwriter, and I go between kind of wrestling with what you're talking about because it's a great song, and why would anybody else do it? On the other hand, I mean, I know she got paid some on the front end, but she's probably getting paid a whole lot more right now for other people doing it. Hey,
I mean,
take
what
what you can get, you know?
I was like, well, more power to Luke Combs. Is it Combs? Because Aiden
Yeah,
says
Luke
comms.
Combs.
Aiden says comms, which would make sense because I have never seen Aiden use a comb in my life before, so he might not know what a comb is. so, so, but I like it. That experience made me go, yeah, more power to him. And it's cool that that song is being listened to by a whole group of people that have never, I guess, heard it before.
Yeah, that dude, Luke Combs, he's a App State grad. So along with my beloved Gators, I am also a alumni of the App State Mountaineers, and he was
Boone, North
there.
Carolina,
Yeah,
right?
that's right, man. He was in Boone. I had I'll spare everybody the long version of this, but I had a quite a long hiatus in college, and decade and a half or so. And then I resumed my college career and completed it at App State. And he was a student and a performer around that time. That was he was right. It's not like we got coffee or anything. I had no clue who he was, but in retrospect, it turns out we were in at App State at the same time.
At the same time. Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah. I was
Ask you this. Do you ever look at
35 or 37 when I went there?
do you ever look at somebody who was in the same place at the same time and then see their level of success and go, we were at the same place at the same time? Do you ever like get like, what
Yeah,
did
good
I
and bad. Like
Yeah.
people that were like, I wouldn't say good or bad. That's rude. That's sort of a rude thing. Different. They're in like wildly different circumstances than I am, kind of deal.
Okay.
Where you're like, how did that happen? And like,
Yeah.
you know, some people seem like they have everything, and others you're like, dude, we're like these are all gray, and this is all going away up here, man. It's time. Like you can't just be the dude on the beach bar scene every night, you know. So yeah, I do see that a lot, man.
Speaking of getting out there, playing music, I wanted to ask you. You mentioned last week you were going to an open mic,
Yeah.
and I wanted to hear how that went.
It went well. I had a blast. That was Thursday night 1 week ago, and what ended up happening is just sort of serendipity. It's an open mic, but it was at this like theater here in town, and they hire a band to host it, and then anyway, so I get up, I do my thing, broke a string in the middle of my final song, so I cut it all short. And but anyway, that band that hosted it is a like an Irish pub band, and after I played
That's
there,
right up your alley.
oh yeah, big time. That's where I've spent my formative music years. And anyway, the guy that was hosting it in the band and running the sound, he says, "Hey, we do one of these." There's a suburb called Egan. It's north of here, like properly in the suburbs of Minneapolis. And he says, our guitarist and singer is out of town next week. Would you front the band with us? And I was like, well, okay, that's cool. So I did that last night. And
Whoa, nice.
So, yeah. So it's cool. It you know, I don't have a whole bunch of gigs lined up or even a duo formed or anything yet, but it was a very good start. It's a very positive first 2 outings now in 1 week. Why not?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you just start doing stuff and it starts to steamroll. I don't know if other people, feel that way, but like you do the things
You
that you
mean me
want to
personally
do.
or in general?
I think in general. I think in
Yeah,
general.
yeah.
I think it's like you've put yourself out there and you've things will come to you. And you
Yeah.
take chances, you take risks, you get out of your comfort zone. I mean, how did it feel when you went up for the first time?
I'll tell you, man, last night was great. It was good when you're surrounded by good musicians and the sound is good and all that. It's good. I hadn't performed in 4 or 5 months, and I still get like this, like somewhere between stage fright and excitement, and sometimes a little bit of both. I still get that, and I love it, and that's cool. So, but it usually takes me a song or two to kind of settle in gigs. But in an open mic setting where you only have 3 or 4 songs, you don't really have time to settle in. You just got to go. And
Right. Yeah.
so anyhow, it felt a little anxious, but it went well. They, like I said, they asked me to come perform with them. So it was cool. Yeah, you know what? Gecko Man says if you're comfortable, you're not growing. Yeah, you got to get that. You got to get the jitters sometimes, and enjoy life. Hey, there's 24 people hanging out already. I feel like the show's getting a little bit of already. I feel like the show's getting a little wheels here, Let's instead of remembering to later, why not tell everybody about Cold Blooded Cafe? There's 24 of you. I feed frozen thawed to my adult snakes. My babies, I do feed my own ASFs too. But Cold Blooded Cafe, they're who I use. Use a promo code proper11. Get 11% off your order. It's not $11, 11% off of your frozen rodent order. No limit as far as I know. I think you only get one actual redemption, but no limit on the price. One caveat, you do have to be logged in on your email. I get a lot of people message me, say your code doesn't work. I'm like, did you use your email? They're like, no. I'm like, there you go use it. So Cold Blooded Cafe, thanks for their support. And then Keith at Creative Genetics, he's out in Fresno. Hopefully, I think Fresno is well north of the storms. But Keith, I hope you're well. I know you're in the audience this morning. Thanks for getting up early. This is even earlier than those people on the West Coast, and here in Central Time. Keith is working with Stranger Combos, Stranger Recessive Combo projects. I know he's got some Stranger Combos available right now. Check out Keith at Creative Genetics. I'm working with both his snakes and him on breeder projects. So like, I'm in it. I believe it. I believe in him. I believe in what he's got. So check him out. Creative Genetics. Those links are both down below. What have you been up to this week, Joe?
I got to tell you, just a lot of work. It's heating up. I'm going to do one of my pet peeves, which I don't really, I'm busy, very busy. I think that's one of the things that we talked about. I said, I don't like when people say they're busy.
You're like, I've had enough of busy. I don't care if you're busy. No, but for those that don't know, this is tax season. You guys, this is like your, like,
it's heating up.
What's like the corporate, if you want, I'm not saying to, like, dump on your livelihood. What's like the corporate, like, rah this time of year? They're like, this is the Super Bowl. Everything, every moment before now has led right to this moment and prepared us for like,
have you known
pep talk?
Have you known any accountants in your life? I wouldn't describe them as really. Rah.
Well, I don't know. I would, most chefs I wouldn't describe as rah, but we give these little pep talks before every shift. So I figure, maybe, actually, I don't know. I figure every industry has it.
No, I don't know. I mean, just keep going. We can get through it. Like that kind of talk is always good.
Oh, it's more we can get through it rather than we're gonna go crush it. Yeah, guys, we're gonna survive. We won't die. Okay,
we're gonna get through it.
I feel like there's a window of opportunity in the for like
I should think about
speakers.
That. Yes. We're gonna crush this return right now.
Yeah, you should blow into the office today. Just throw your coat on. I don't know if you have coats in Florida, but throw your coat on the boardroom table and go, it's time, guys. This is the moment. This is our time to shine. This is our Super Bowl. Get a whole Mahomes segment together in your head.
That's good. I'll think about that. That's good.
I mean, you may as well try something. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. Well, I hope it goes well. You guys,
no, it's a good week. Actually, Chelsea's got like a conference that she's going to it's in Fort Lauderdale. So we're staying over there for a couple of days, starting tonight, actually. So after work, we're going to drive down there and spend a few days out there. So we both have to work, but remotely tomorrow, but then we'll be there and hanging out and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. That's good.
For those that don't know, there's sort of an imaginary line that runs somewhere from Tampa Bay to pretty much West Palm. And that's the end of sanity. That's the end of any rules, of any reality, of any normal thought in life. And south of that is Crazy Town, and that's where you'll be in Fort Lauderdale. There's a quick geographical roundup of Florida for you all.
It's funny. I have another podcast that we were recording this past week, and we were on.
You did some episodes?
Yeah, we did. They won't be released until we edit them, and then. And actually, we're hitting a few snags with our guests. They're a little more like, can we put this clause? Like, we have everybody sign like a form saying that we can use their recording and everything and stuff like that. So
really, wow, that's very official. Yeah, okay.
But I just got one last night, and he said, "Well, I'm a part of SAG. he's like a member, and he's like, "Oh, I
You're
can't."
are you getting big timed here? Like he's you're a union. He's gonna be busting the union if he
Well,
comes on.
he can't like do something that is non I guess sanctioned by SAG or something. So I'm just gonna have to call SAG and go, this is our podcast, and explain to SAG what the podcast is. So
Now,
there's one, and then somebody else said, "Do you mind if it doesn't like if I don't like it? Let's put in a clause where I can just say no, I don't want this
oh, they
feature."
want creative control. They don't
They want
understand
they
the
want creative
authenticity
control.
factor. Man, who are these people, Joe? What is
No,
this?
they're great. They're great people. I'm really, really excited about them. They're awesome. But anyway, I was saying we were recording an episode, and we were talking about something like it was. I can't remember what it was, but it was like, um, is that like? And Jay said, is that just like something that everybody says they don't like, but they actually really enjoy? Um, and and then he said, like Florida.
Right,
Like
right. There you go.
everybody is supposed to not like Florida, but actually when they go there, they all really enjoy it.
Yeah, there was a
And I thought
saying.
that was funny.
We had a saying in the food and beverage world that was something along the lines of everybody says we're a bad influence, but damn if they don't have a good time hanging out with us, like
Right.
it's sort of like
I bet
that,
you I bet you saw that a lot in like the service industry, like trends of things that people are supposed to like, and maybe they're not really that
Oh,
good, or
let me,
trends of things
yeah.
that are not good at all, and but people feel as though they're supposed to like.
Oh yeah, and the Food Net. I could tell you, I remember the moment in my career when I knew Food Network had become like this cultural icon. I had
Okay,
people.
what happened?
Oh, they needed truffle. How come you guys don't have truffle fries? Oh, give me a break. Now they're delicious. I get it. But there were other things, or it switched from I didn't care for this to experts on your sous vide, you're not doing it right. Get out of here. Like you have no freaking idea. Like it'd be like I think Jeremy was watching Jeremy about it'd be like me talking to him about dovetail joints on custom cabinetry. Like I understand what they are. There's a reason I don't go make them and use them every day. And there's anyway, yeah, I get a little fired up about this. But yeah,
Yeah, you
thank you, Food
I didn't
Network.
mean to
Yeah.
touch a nerve here. I would say I mean, wine as well. I bet you saw I mean, what you're supposed to like with wine, and what you're
Yeah.
and people know what kind of wines they want, everything.
Oh yeah. Well, I see. There was a moment, and it's sort of past. I think there was a moment. There was a really, I say, big movie called Sideways. That is, I find. I mean, it's hilarious. It's dark humor. It's a little sort of wine noir almost, but it's phenomenal. But in that movie, they totally dump on Merlot the whole movie. I mean,
Right, yeah.
there's a point where he's just screaming, I'm not drinking any, fill in the blank Merlot." And that movie single-handedly like crashed the price of Merlot.
Right. I mean, it's a great movie. I really like that
Yeah,
movie.
which is
But
great because I really enjoy Merlot, and I think the common consumer, that I think most consumers
the
first
commoners,
wouldn't.
that's what you're
Yeah,
talking
well,
about, the commoners.
I think most people wouldn't be able to differentiate between Cabernet and Merlot. Secondly, what people don't know is that whatever's listed on the label in the United States only has to be 75% of what's in the bottle. The rest of it can be any grape, which provides a little bit of a mixing and artistry blending room for the winemaker. I can't say every, but higher than 90% of every Cabernet in the United States is blended with Merlot. So I had for a decade of people telling me, I don't want Merlot. I won't even look at Merlot. I'm like, I'm buying it for pennies on the dollar right now because of this crazy movie. And conversely, Pinot Noir shot through the roof. Pinot Noir is still more expensive than Merlot to this
That's
day. So
wild. It,
yeah,
it's
it's kind of
it's really
crazy.
wild how that kind of stuff, even though, and maybe and probably people who don't like Merlot or have that mentality may have never even seen Sideways.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
it's kind of
that
permeated through society
it's
that way.
it's
Yeah.
so strange how that kind of sentiment can permeate society without, knowing where it came from.
Yeah.
It's really
It's a
cool.
great movie. If you haven't seen it, just know you're going to you have to kind of slog through the first 40 minutes that are really slow, but they're very important for the character development. And then from the 40-minute mark, it is comedy gold.
It
And
is very good.
some
Very, very
depth
good.
to it too, man. I think it's fantastic.
And who's the guy? Lowell from Wings
He's
is
so
so
good.
good.
Oh
It's
my
really
God.
good.
He's good.
I wish I could remember his name because he's in so many things that I like too.
Yeah, and he does a
Uh,
lot of commercial voiceovers too. There's times I'll
yeah,
still hear him like, "That's him from
yeah,
Wings."
that's Lowell from Wings. uh,
That's him.
there was a comment earlier. Somebody said that I sit like George Costanza at his desk at the Yankees office. I don't
Wow.
know about that, but I do use the trick that if I'm like slacking off, maybe, and I want to look busy, I act annoyed. It's a great
Oh,
trick.
oh yeah. Oh, throw a clipboard into the mix while you're walking around, Joe. People will leave you just annoyed. Just
Just annoyed and
let me
clipboard.
tell you, if I ever needed to get through the dining room and I didn't want to talk to anybody, grab a clipboard and put a scowl on your face and beeline it where you're going. Nobody will speak to you, man. Nobody.
That's great.
So I had a few thoughts this week that formulated my show idea, and I thought, full transparency, I thought this is a great topic because there's no real right answer and a whole lot for us to pick apart. So we can talk endlessly about it, and we could both be right if we disagree, or anybody can play along. Anybody can be right. It's like the Food
Yeah.
Network. Once you've watched it, you're ready to run a restaurant and you're an expert. So you just jump on board and get into it. It stemmed from two things. One, I had a guy named Brian Carter from BC's Balls is the name of the company. He was on the show on Tuesday night, and he's a entrepreneur. He does still stay employed. He works from home, and it's not a consulting role, but he anyway, they created a role for him. So I felt like we had a lot in common there. And somewhere along the way, I said, in the context of his business, I said, yeah, but what you were doing then allowed you to get to where you're at now. And it sort of set the stage for, it was in the context of starting a business or an entrepreneurial spirit and stepping away from, say, a salary or the reliability of a salary.
Sure.
And that got me thinking about life stages, because I talk about a lot, which is sort of gives me an out to hedge all my opinions, but to say everybody's got different resources, everybody's got different outlooks on life. What works for me might not work for somebody else. But so for context, I'm like a week away. My goodness, I'm right there. I'm like a week away from 44. So I'm knocking on the door of 44. And thankfully, I'm still here. I'm still knocking. This is good. It's not a problem. But I'm in a different life stage and a different set of scenarios than, say, somebody at 23 would be. And I think in the industry, we talk about what it takes to make it, what you have to do, the X's and O's, the profit and loss. Here's how you do this. Here's how you don't. Very rarely does anybody say, you might just be in a different life stage of experience and resources at 44 than you are at 23.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's not might be, you probably factually are. Whether one's better or not, that's a whole different story. I felt like I was more suited right now, or in my 40s than I would have been in my 20s. But I never thought about this stuff in my 20s. So that's the other half of it. The one other scenario I thought of that I've said to myself many times in my career, a lot of people don't know, and there's no reason for them to know. You don't have to memorize the biography of Adam. At 25, I was a young corporate go-getter. I'd worked for Ruby Tuesday for 9 years. I'd climbed the corporate ladder from dishwasher all the way to entry-level management. And I was 25, and remember I was working Florida Georgia weekend at the Ruby Tuesday at the airport, getting absolutely crushed. And the regional manager came to me and said, "Hey, you got a phone call in the office." And I said, "I don't even work in this store normally. Who's calling me?" He goes, "You need to take that call." And I really thought there was something wrong. I got a little scared. I thought maybe family emergency or whatever. It was the regional manager's boss, and it was a vice president or somebody. And basically he hits me with, "Adam, I hear you're the guy. We have an opening. We have a store. You're going to be a general manager. Are you ready?" Yes, I am. I am ready. This is it. He goes, "Perfect. We have a store in Wetumpka, Alabama for you. Are you ready?" And I was like, "Well, I'd love to check it out. It's going to be great to take a look at." He goes, "Adam, there's 900 stores with 900 assistant managers ready to take that leap. I need to know now. Do you want the store or not?" And I said, "Well, so you need me to commit to moving to Alabama?" And he's like, "Look, that's how the corporate world goes. Your name's going to be on the front door. What have you been working hard for, man?" And I was like, "Well, when would I start?" He's like, "Tuesday." I think this was a Friday evening or something like that, and I'm like, anyway, long story short, I took that job. And or maybe long story long, I took that job. I lasted a year. I quit. I had enough. That was the end for me.
You lasted
And
a year.
yeah, I hated it. It was terrible. And I won't say always. I resented it for a long time. And then one day it just hit me. That's what got me where I was at. That moving to Alabama and quitting got me to the PGA Tour, which was just a whole different level and a whole different. At the time, Ruby's was still a great company. PGA Tour was a great company, but it was an elevated role in a whole new world. Private clubs are a whole different world. Banquets, weddings, event planning, whole new world. Actual mobility in a corporate structure. That guy was exactly right. It was 900 Rubies with 900 go-getters that were ready to advance. I don't want to fight 900 people for my spot. So PGA Tour was actually a much smaller company with greater mobility. I go through all that because that was what I needed to get to that point. My career was what I needed to get to this point right now. And at that life stage, I didn't have those opportunities. I didn't have those resources. And I certainly didn't have any sort of financial safety net to go, yeah, now's the time to take a risk. So
Right, yeah.
That's all the stuff that got me thinking about today's show that led to me calling you yesterday morning.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in taking the next step and not worrying about the consequences, which has gotten me into some trouble. But it's gotten me to some great places, even when those choices that I have made were, I look back and I go, why did I do that? Because, it's like you're saying, they brought me to a particular place that even freed me up to do the things, to find who I was or what I wanted to do at a particular moment in time. And it was a learning, growing experience. Now it's funny, and we were talking about this yesterday just a little bit, like the freedom of making the leap to owning your own business, I think, is something that's a really hard move to make. And when we talk about this industry here, and maybe some of the people who are listening, they go, well, I want to be a breeder, or I want to sell snakes or reptiles full time. I want to make that leap because I've grown this collection so much that I want to get into this trade. I think there are so many different factors that go into that are really important to consider. I and you say, when you were talking about that, you were like, well, I didn't have the financial ability, or
Right.
a safety net at that
Right.
time to make that kind of move. It's funny how you think like that because in my 20s, I probably if I had an inclination that owning your own business afforded more freedom to me, I had less responsibility then to make that choice. You know what I mean? So that's how I would see it. That's how so as I've gotten older, I've become more financially stable, but I have more responsibilities to take care of. So
Yeah.
if I make that leap at an age where I have all of these responsibilities, then then it's all of those like let's say family and kids and
Mhm.
things like that. A house that you own. In my 20s, I was renting and going
Yeah.
from place to place and everything. So so all of those, it's just funny the different perspectives that we have on our different stages in life. Really, you know what I
Right.
mean?
I do know what you mean, and I think, so I think the world of snakes and breeding in this industry, it touches two nerves. One, in our audience is probably very, very near and dear, so that's hard to look unbiasedly at. And from people not in our industry, they probably are going, "That's absolutely insane." So that's a heavily biased thought as well.
Right.
But say we take the snakes out of it for one moment, and it is a neat thought process that you're talking about too, because on the one hand, in your 20s, you don't have the responsibilities, so you have the freedom. I remember, it's probably in my mind more nostalgic than it actually was that good. At 27, I was filthy rich. I had I had no home. I,
Right.
I mean, I rented a place. I had no responsibilities. I was making good money. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I don't know if you ever saw it or even if Chelsea ever saw it. I drove. Can you believe my cheap Adam? I had a black Alfa Romeo convertible. I had a little the graduate spider. That's what 200 like. Can you imagine what a schmuck I looked like touring around Jacksonville Beach in an Alfa? Like, it was so stupid. And I guess I'm probably going to defeat my own point, because if I had used that money for that nonsense to like actually like make a business, maybe it would have been the smart thing to do. But
Well,
okay,
see,
so let's.
and
Oh,
that's
go
what
ahead.
Gecko Man is saying. I mean, you don't possess the forethought to make decisions that will get us to the end game. I mean, that's the other thing, and that's the part of the development as an adult to you know to make those types of decisions.
Shannon brings it all together. Adam driving a fast car. That was a fast car right up until about 62 miles an hour, and then it slowed down significantly. um, It's a terrible car. Do not ever buy an Alpha, guy, or an old Alpha. New ones are probably pretty sweet. But anyway, um, but okay, so take snakes out of the equation. Let's
Yeah,
talk just generically for a moment. Hypothetically, in this situation, 20 grand will start your business that you're passionate about. I kind of put myself through this, but I didn't dive deep in it because I wanted to do it sort of real time. What are the pros and the cons of a 20-year-old that probably doesn't? I don't know about you, but 20 grand may as well have been 10 million to me to actually have on hand in my,
mhm.
let's say at 25. By 27, 28, I was starting to get my act together. But it was because I'd already, sorry, one bit of content as well. At 27, somewhere in the midst of the alpha experience, I did wake up and look myself in the mirror and go, Adam, you've been working in your career well over a decade and you have nothing to show for it. What are you doing? And
Now, hang
that
on.
yeah,
So, what do you mean show for it? What do you mean? Like
I
wealth
had nothing. Yeah,
or
I had nothing in my accounts, man. I was broke. What people don't know, and there's a good lesson in there, but it's embarrassing, frankly. When I left that job in Alabama, I had no money. I moved back to Jacksonville. I moved into my dad's spare bedroom. I had my mattress and I had my guitars and I had a green truck, my Dodge Dakota. And I pawned my last Gibson Les Paul for the second suit, for the second interview at the PGA Tour, because I didn't want to appear that I only had one suit. So
Oh,
I
wow.
needed,
Okay.
yeah, I needed another suit. And I remember, maybe it was walking in that pawn shop. I remember the guy going, I give you $200 for it. I was like, this is a Les Paul custom. I lost it on the guy. He's like, look, man, that's how the pawn shop works. I was like, do you know what credit I have? Do you know what this is worth? Of course I'm going to be back. I'm going to pay you your money. And I actually got mad. And he was like, all right, I'll give you 375. Is that what the suit's going to cost? I told him. And I was like, yeah. And I remember, I think it cost me $500 on 375 to get that guitar out of Hawk, man. I was so mad, but that was it. Yeah, I had experience. I had nothing responsible in life to show for it. I hadn't started a 401k.
Yeah.
I didn't have,
Gotcha.
and I didn't do, I mean, talk about being rich. I mean, I was a Ruby Tuesday general manager at 25, man. I don't think I ate at home for years. And because I was going out and spending money, but I didn't have a drug habit. I wasn't buying, as not as funny as an Alfa Romeo sounds. I was going to say I wasn't buying stupid cars. I guess I was, but they weren't my thing. It wasn't like I was buying Harleys or whatever. I just blew through money. And that was, yeah, I was really furious with myself. So I didn't have the resources to start a business then.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
didn't have the life experience and the outlook. I thought I was pretty smart, but in retrospect, I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, see, that's the other thing. You don't have the life experience. Sometimes you're just not ready at that point. Some people are. Some people, I'm astounded at folks who started a business, or maybe their family had a business. I don't know. Like most of the time, I figure out those who started businesses early there was some kind of experience in the family where their family owned a business and they saw that.
I
But
agree with you because school doesn't teach us depreciation and profit and loss and how to use debt responsibly versus
yeah,
buying Alfa Romeos. So
right,
I think that people have to come from an entrepreneurial mindset of their family that get ahead that quick, because otherwise it takes you 38 years to learn, wait a minute, what is this corporation doing that I could do that I wasn't taught? Like, what are these secrets that
right,
have been
yeah.
held out on me? I sorry, this kind of hit me. That's a good spin. Like, did that horrible moment in that pawn shop lead to everything that came thereafter?
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
me hanging my head and facing that, gosh, I wish I could curse on this show sometimes. That horrible moment of feeling that big, did that kick me right in the gut and inspire me to get that job on the second interview and to go back and slam the money on that counter and take off from there? Because that really was the moment. I mean,
Yeah.
that was as low as I've ever felt. Man, it was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, sometimes you have to go through those types of things to get to the other side, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love this. It's almost like school teaches people that being an entrepreneur is bad. Uh, I, uh, I would say that I was taught, and maybe this is different from other people, that risk is bad. And you have to take measured risks, I think, when you do this type of thing. And I know that and maybe you feel this way, Adam. Reducing risk is the best way to move forward, or simply having your eyes wide open. But then there are some things where you just have to go to take the step and take a risk. And part of that, and this is the most important thing that I think uh, is involved with owning or starting your own business, is that you trust yourself enough to invest in yourself, the work that you do, the mind that you have, your work ethic, that you trust yourself to invest in yourself. So I would look at you and do you know yourself enough to go, I can definitely do this. I can move from, I have done this work for so long. I know what it takes to run a business. I can do it myself, and I have the work ethic, I have the skills, I have the talent, I have the brains to go ahead and do that. I think that to me is the most important part of starting your business, or making
I
the decision to start your business.
I agree. What always held me up was truly was fear. And I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh, fear is for, whatever. There's a reason, a little fear on the old Sahara keeps or the Sahara's a desert on the plains, keeps you from a lion eating you. And if nothing else, the goal in life is to not get eaten by lions, at least, prior to old age and dying of natural causes first. So I think fear is a good thing, is what I'm saying. Again, we all come from life experiences. And I had a pretty good situation. I find a lot of entrepreneurs jump out when things aren't good, when you got to find a new solution. I was good at what I did and what I still do. It paid well. It ate up all my time, is really what it was. It ate up all my time and became unhealthy, but it was good enough. And to get really cliche, the old cliche of salary's the drug they give you to make you forget your dreams.
Oh yeah.
That's really cynical to say, because salary was also the drug they gave me to buy a house, to be a good husband, to be a family provider, to bring some happiness and joy and relevancy in the communities that I worked in, that I was, very proud of. That at the root, that's what I really loved about hospitality and food and beverage. So I'm not that cynical towards it. All the things you talked about are very, very true. But at the end of the day, I never, and risk aversion is something I saw Stephen in the audience earlier. Stephen and I talk a lot about that on shows when we end up doing a show together, of what formulates each person's risk aversion. And I'm not saying this is accurate about Stephen and Courtney, but there are breeders that have spent 50, 70, $100,000 on their initial investments. For me, in my mind, that's the scare. That's I could never do that. In Adam's world, that's not going to happen, man. I don't know what it would take to recoup that if I lost it. And the fact is, most businesses, it's going to take time. I've got the traction now, but I'm still at the point where actually somebody called me yesterday. Great opportunity. It would have been a wonderful animal to pick up. It was still going to be $2,500. I'm probably not going to drop that right now. So I'm pretty measured in my risk, but that flows through my life too. My investments are index funds, really closely tied to the S&P. I don't buy individual stocks. I've never bought an individual stock. And all that is for diversification, hedging losses. I'll be the tortoise, not the hare. And I'm fully, it's worked for me. So not only has that risk aversion led to those decisions, the results of those decisions have reaffirmed that risk aversion. So I'm kind of am who I am now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
So actually Brandon's awesome. He's a sponsor on one of the other shows, on the other show. Yeah. He and I, constant debates. We're having pancakes in Daytona over, discussing risk aversion. And he's like, you got this, Adam. You know what you're doing. You have the money. You have the time. You clearly have a proof of concept. You need to go off the deep end a little bit faster. And it's not me. It's not what's worked for me. And Brandon's a great example of people that it has worked for.
It's a really good point, though. Like, some people are okay with taking that risk. And is it appropriate to try and change yourself to take that risk, or is it okay just to be? Or should you just be okay with the level of risk that you're comfortable making?
Sorry. So everything is relative, as the cliche goes. Let me make my own argument. For anybody that thinks I'm risk averse, I walked away from, just to be open here,
Yeah.
Something more than 5 figures and something less than 7-figure security. I now podcast a show at 6:30 in the morning in a room of 200 animals. I have managed to keep it all together and not go absolutely insane just from those 2 factual statements. To me, that's a hell of a lot of risk that I've taken. So there's micro risk aversion, there's macro risk aversion,
Yeah.
and then again, everything is a personal perception as well.
Yeah.
So I like to say, come on, give me a little bit of credit, guys, on the risk that I have taken here.
Here's okay. All right. Now this is interesting because I think what I said earlier about investing and having the faith in yourself or the trust in yourself enough or the confidence to invest in yourself. I think that's kind of the conscious part of this whole thing. But I think, and I would choose you as an example. I think there's something more about the human condition, and this harkens back to my uh, theological studies. There
Hmm.
was this guy, this theologian, who said that the it's very I'm taking it I'm scaling it way back, but he posits um, that the human condition is there is a dissonance between who we are and what we think we should be. And that idea of what we should be is this idea of heaven. We want to get to heaven someday, this idea of heaven, right? And but we live in the space of who we are and the dissonance between who we are and what we
Hmm.
think is
And
heaven, right? And what
yeah.
that creates is this, and I've said this word before, and this is why I think of it, and this is how I identify myself. What it creates is this. He calls it the negative contrast of experience, but it instills in us a restlessness about
Hmm.
who we are
Yes.
because we have an idea of who we can be, right?
Yeah.
It's simple concepts just uh made pretty with these words, right? But it instills in us this sense that we can be more, we should be more, we personally should be more, our society should be more, our communities should be more, all of that stuff. And that's where we live. And I think that's really the thing that propels people to go, well, I'm going to take a risk because I can't do I can't be the way that I am anymore. And
Yeah.
that's less conscious. That's a less conscious decision, I think, that propels us into going, whoa, what are the other ways that I could be doing this?
Yeah, I think in one word, that's what we call drive. And that's the um if we to get really nerdy, and for anybody that's into this kind of thing, there's a book by a guy called Daniel Pink that's actually called Drive. It's a singular title, and it really opened my eyes to leadership. It's not particularly a leadership book, but it opened my eyes to it. And Daniel Pink says and there's a TED talk on this, which makes it easier because none of us like to read books anymore. We just want to hear a talk in a podcast. Daniel Pink is his name, but he basically says the best drive, the best way to motivate people, or the best way to motivate ourselves, is for intrinsic value. So we think that we're motivated by, here's the carrot on the stick, go chase this dollar bill over and over again, and or keeping up a stick analogy. If we don't chase it, or we need to be motivated, or we need to motivate somebody, you hit them with a stick, and figuratively, hopefully not literally anymore, and that will drive people. And Daniel Pink says, yeah, see how silly that sounds?
Right.
What really would drive us is along the lines of what you're talking about, is settling that inner dissonance where you go, all right, but here's a goal I could believe in. That's what's going to motivate me. And I know all that sounds like heady stuff, but in restaurants, so to get really specific, the typical restaurant scene would be a manager, general manager, owner, chef going, guys, we're going to run a contest tonight. This is amazing food. Whoever sells the most, you're going to get a big ribeye at the end of it, or you're going to get $40 and, go sell hard. And it works. We go sell hard. And the next day, that same item's on the menu. And the very next day, you know what happens? Sales plummet on that item.
Yeah.
Because the carrot and the stick went away. And I hated doing contests. Anytime sales were down, the managers would just be like, let's just do a contest. And I'm like, no, you know what? Here's what I want to do. The staff comes in at 4 o'clock. At 2:30, I want you to set a great big table. We got 10 people on the schedule tonight. Set a table for 10 people. And I want 6 of these dishes right down the middle. And we're going to show the staff how awesome this food is and make them feel special and appreciated. And they're going to tell everybody how amazing the staff family dinner was and how our community was. And the sales intrinsically, because they loved the experience, went through the roof. And I get chills talking about it. The next day, they would tell people how amazing that dish was. And the next day, because there was a special moment attached to it, and it was this intrinsic motivation. And what that has to do with anything that we're talking about is that is sort of settling a little piece of that dissonance you're talking about, and that motivation of who we want to be and how we want to get there. So it's not always completely change gears. I hate what I'm doing. We could change gears on how we do what we do. And find that on our journey, find that on our path, because that's life, who we are and who we want to be. That's all of life. That is the beginning, middle, and end of life, right?
Yeah. But what it does do, though, that idea of who we are and who we want to be, it does create, I think, sometimes it creates a restlessness that is unfounded as well. And it prevents us from enjoying who we are sometimes. So that's problematic. I think that's the negative side of it. But I also like the idea of have this experience, and then in order to be able to know the experience and then to sell it, because there's this intrinsic experience or this value that you've attached to it. And here's the other thing. The sales go up because they want other people to experience the same thing.
Right.
That's interesting. That to me is like, okay, so we are a social people. I mean, we want others to experience the same thing. That's why we're having this conversation. You have made a particular leap into this realm, this field, and you not only want to talk about the snake part of this business with me, but you want to talk about the business part of this business, because you also want other people to think about this and to experience this type of thing. And
the slices of pie are not finite. We could grow, the pie can always get bigger, and there can always be another slice for somebody. 2 thoughts come to mind when you talk about sharing the experiences. I don't know if Matt is still in the audience from Ebony and Ivory. I saw him earlier. Matt and his wife do, I think they're at schools and libraries and maybe even birthday parties and stuff, but they bring their collection of snakes to community settings, and they're really, really great with outreach. So like, I like to think of my outreach in this setting, and hopefully providing content or relatable content or whatever that people can maybe learn something from, or tell me what I'm doing wrong kind of thing from. But Matt and Kendra are fantastic about they're great about their educational outreach. And I hope, and I know, and this might sound selfish, but I hope that they've found a way to monetize it too, because it's a lot of work and they deserve. I think that there could be intrinsic good that is also rewarded financially, and because we all need to eat in our time. There's only so many hours and minutes in the day. So anyway, I think that's cool. Also, I am caught off guard and taken aback. Steven, that's probably about the nicest thing somebody's ever typed about me. So that's very kind. I really appreciate it.
There's a lot of agreement as well. Yeah, I was going to say something too. There's a lot of agreement as well to that comment. And also, I feel the same way. I think if anybody can grow, and there you have a certain amount of drive and a certain amount of humility to learn. And those are there's a book called Good to Great
Oh yeah.
by Jim Collins. Jim Collins? I don't know. And he studies leaders, and he said there's two things that you need as a leader from the study, and that's a personal humility and a professional will. So a
Mm,
professional will, like that drive to be great, to go from good to great, that drive to be better, but also coupled with this personal humility because you need to learn how to be great.
yeah.
That's those are the two things that Jim Collins finds in the study that he does of these leaders. It's an old book,
Yeah,
and
it's been
he's
around a long time. Yeah,
yeah,
that was on one of
been
the.
updated, but I always hang on to that. And when I see people like you that have the professional will and the personal humility, I go, okay, that person can do what they want.
I like. Thank you. That's again. It's really really kind. Like I said, it's kind of caught off guard there. Uh, I like the idea of curiosity. Curiosity is just fun, and you'll learn neat stuff. I was at another breeder's facility yesterday, and something as mundane as which most of the people in the audience will know what I'm talking about, Joe. You're probably gonna have no idea. You're like, what in the world is that? So on a rodent rack, there's a plumbing system and there's water nipples are what the rodents drink from. And something as mundane as a very particular model of water nipple that I hadn't figured out the perfect way to attach it to the rodent cage yet, and I'd run into very significant problems. I had no idea. This breeder is using exactly the same model of water nipple and the exact same model of caging. And he had this solution that I've been racking my brain for. And I couldn't believe it. There it was. And it was just because I was like, hey, I'm just nerdy about stuff. I really, what I was looking at was he has this is really diving down a rabbit hole. He has you can have gravity fed water systems for your rodents, or you can have pressurized water systems. Pressurized is really kind of plumbed in, and it seems really the greatest because it's kind of fail proof, except when one of these nipples fails and the water pressure just floods your whole rack and ends up killing the. I mean, it's terrible. It's a horrible
Yeah,
situation.
yeah,
So gravity fed is a 5-gallon bucket that it could drain and it could flood a couple tubs, but it's not going to overflow your whole facility. He had innovated, and I've seen actually Jeremy Bod has a very similar setup, pressurized into the 5-gallon buckets with float switches and all of that. So I was like, this is all neat stuff here. And as I was checking it out, boom, there was the water nipple answer I'd been seeking, and I didn't know it was right there. It was just a curiosity of going, can we look around? So
right.
anyway, I
Yeah.
love that stuff. I did not go there looking for water nipple answers, and I found it. I went there to do business, and I did business. I did not go there to find the water nipple solution, but I was more excited about that than the business that I did.
This is the humility that I'm talking about with Adam. He's complimented, and he immediately changes the subject to water nipples. So
That's it. Well,
he
look,
can't even take.
I'm here for the algorithm, baby. I've decided that the algorithm is going to find something unique in repeating water nipples over and over. This world of AI, you just got to play into it, Yeah, it is a lot of early nipple talk, man. Look, see, because other people are excited. Look, here's Brandon. He's like, wait a minute. Is it clips? What is it? I'll put it
Go
on.
for it.
No. I'll put it. I can't even describe it properly because it's a certain model of nipple that's it's I was just about to say. I'm gonna say it's more bulbous than the typical water nipple. And it doesn't fit in the clips or the racks just right. But I discovered the hack for it. I was shown the hack for it yesterday. Yeah, look, see, this is it. No, here we go. We have now done it. We are into.
It's not where where I thought this conversation would end up, but
I never thought at
hey.
7:30 we would be wrapping up on bulbous nipples. But here we are. And look, I mean, we just hit 30 viewers. It was good right there for just a moment. We had peaked on the metrics.
Well, I mean, we should talk about water nipples more then.
Yeah, I mean, some are heavy flow, some are drips. You know, some you gotta poke properly to get any sort of reaction from. It's good. Results, not reaction, whatever the word is. You know what I'm saying? So,
just saying.
Where did we land on? Different life stages, different risk aversion, stay curious, find intrinsic drive and value in what we do. Do we conclude anything, or did we just give ourselves all a bunch of food for thought?
I think it's food for thought, really, more than anything else, because it's a constant struggle. That's the idea. That's the thing.
Oh yeah.
It's not. So that's what this theologian was saying. That's what always stuck with me. That no matter what, heaven is this unattainable thing that we think is there, but we live in this world. So even if we make those risks, there is always going to be this drive towards what we think is heaven. So the human condition is waking up in the morning and going, I think things can be better. I think things can be better. And so we're just going to always, I have accepted that I think I will always be that way.
Is there, and this is a whole new show. Maybe this is next week's show. Is there, in that theory, a success or satisfaction that can be reached? Is there happiness and joy rather than constant, perpetual dissonance?
Well,
that's some food for thought there. I mean, that's a week-long.
Christian theology would say yes, there is a heaven, and then
all right,
and that's
salvation.
But then,
how about business theology?
Business theology would be. Well, you'd set your goal for yourself, right? Like you have.
Yeah. Well, and then okay.
But
so
I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical about your goal, and I don't mean to. I'm skeptical that you're going to, like you have said, get to a particular point where you say, I'm done, and then you just stop working on stuff. That just doesn't seem like you. It just doesn't seem like you.
I have an incredible, I sometimes scare myself, and that's a whole different conversation too. I have an incredible ability to compartmentalize stuff. When something's done, it's done. I'm gone. I'm out. I'm not saying I'll be able to check with me in 15. But
so yeah. I'm going to bring this full circle, and I'm going to say this longing, and I'm going to maybe say it's a holy longing. This longing, this restlessness for something better is exactly what the song Fast Car is about.
That's true. That is true. Boom, right there. I can't top it. So, guys, thank you all. What a spirited conversation, both from the audience and Joe. Audience, thank you for the kind words. That like I said, that was pretty heavy. That hit me pretty good today. So thank you. I appreciate that. It's definitely worth getting up for. Joe, I like my Thursdays. I get real productive on Thursdays.
I know, right?
Start this. I really do. Genuinely appreciate it. Who knows what we'll talk about next week, but Joe and I, look at this. We got just a little show prep. I didn't even bring up my slides today. I even had slides ready.
You had slides.
I didn't. Screw it. Go Google financial life stages, and you can be bored with the slides. Joe's way better than slides. So, guys, hang out. I will see you all next week. Whatever all the sayings are, Joe and I will be back, barring some massive catastrophe, and we'll do it all again. Thank you all very, very much. Joe, thank you, man. I had a great day today.
Awesome. Thanks. See you next week.
All right. See ya.